I'm going to call this meeting to order. This meeting has been advertised in accordance with the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act and is publicly accessible in accordance with law. Roll call, please.
Sure. Kevin Barcelli,
Here.
Rocco Solentano,
Here.
David Cittadino, Joan George,
Here.
Mayor Henry, Sarah Marino,
Here.
Here.
Maria Novak,
Here.
Miss Marie Rivoli. Here. Esty Spiegel. Here. Zainab Syed. And Frank Weber.
Here.
Thank you. Salute to the flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, we do not have any items for executive session this evening. So I will go right to the minutes. We only have the regular meeting minutes on here. But was there no executive session?
There was no executive.
Okay, great. That's right. I'm sorry. All right, so I'll ask for a motion for the regular meeting minutes of September.
I'll make it.
Almost. I can second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Rocco,
Yes.
Dr. George,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Maria. Maria,
Yes.
Rosemary,
Abstain. Right, wasn't here.
Okay.
Esty. Yes. Zainab isn't here, and Frank Weber.
Yes.
Okay, personnel items. So we'll take them one at a time. Item A, approve the appointment of library assistant Jenna Gervais, effective October 12th. Can I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Dr. George,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Maria,
Yes.
Rosemary,
Yes.
Esty. Yes. Zainab, Frank Weber,
Yes.
and Kevin.
Yes. Okay, item B, approve the appointment of library assistant Judith Miniaci, pending background check. Motion, please.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Any discussion?
I have a question. I know there was an email questioning the titling. Is that okay with Joan? Did everything work out with that?
I submitted all of the documents that were requested of me.
No, there was, she had a question about the title of the
Right, that's
job?
what I mean. I
Oh,
sent
okay.
the job description
Okay,
with that title that was listed, that was approved in April of 2018.
okay.
Okay, any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Sarah. Sarah,
Yes.
Maria,
Yes.
Rosemary,
Yes.
Esty,
Yes.
Frank Weber,
Yes.
Rocco,
Yes.
Dr. George,
Yes.
and Kevin.
Yes. Okay, approve the appointment of library page Aiden Bonanabi, effective October 12th. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Maria,
Yes.
Rosemary,
Yes.
Esty,
Yes.
Frank Weber,
Yes.
Rocco,
Yes.
Dr. George,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Yes. All right, next one, approve appointment of library page Hope Davis, effective October 12th. Motion?
I'll make it.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Esty,
Yes.
Frank Weber,
Yes.
Rocco,
Yes.
Dr. George,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Maria,
Yes.
Rosemary,
Yes.
and Kevin.
Yes. Okay, approve appointment of library page Gianna Verchio, also effective October 12th. Do I have a motion?
I'll make it.
Second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion?
Are these all, these are all like, they're teenagers, right?
Yes.
Okay.
They're all
Are they Old Bridge?
juniors.
Just out of curiosity.
And everyone, would personnel rather answer?
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. They're all from Old Bridge,
Oh, awesome. Okay.
all high school juniors.
Oh,
I'm
nice.
just cautious about too much information about.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So- Any other discussion?
No.
Okay, thank you. Roll call, please.
Frank Weber,
yes,
Rocco,
Yes.
Dr. George,
Yes. Yes.
Maria,
yes,
Rosemary. Yes. Esti
Yes.
and Kevin.
Yes, okay. Moving on to finance. So I will go to Maria on this one for the action of the bill listing in the amount of 186,404.61. Maria? have you-
I reviewed the bills that were all in order, and I'll make the motion to pay the bills 180.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Second, okay, any discussion on the bill listing? Roll call, please.
Rocco,
Yes.
Dr. George,
Abstain. Yes.
Sarah, Maria.
Did we lose you, Maria?
Okay, Rosemary. Yes. Esti,
Yes.
Frank Weber
yes,
and Kevin.
Yes. Okay, so the next item is the budget,
She's
which-
gone.
which, yeah, I would not like to move forward on that item until she's here. She is the chair of the finance committee.
There's also someone in the waiting room.
That's from the Historic Society.
Oh. So he's not,
Richard Pucciarelli is the, yeah.
But we want to let him
but
in.
he
no?
doesn't want to be in for the public.
So when I let him in, then we stop the, okay.
Oh,
Why? Oh. Why?
I was getting confused with executive session. Sorry.
okay.
All right, so he is in and
Yeah, Maria's not back yet.
Maria is
Okay.
the-
So should we skip to the next? Can we do that or no?
Yeah, you can.
Yeah,
move
let's
ahead
do
with that.
that. So I'm going to table item B on finance until Maria comes back, or at some other point in the meeting, we'll get to it, okay? Let's move along. Old business, the notary policy.
yeah, sorry.
She's
So
back.
We'll discuss this and,
No, but let her in.
okay, oh, she's in, okay.
She's back.
we just made some changes to the notary policy.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
I don't, no, it's fine. I just don't want to throw you off track.
Okay.
Good.
So we've made some changes to the language in the notary policy just to indicate that if people don't make an appointment, they may not have access to a notary when they come. It's not that you won't, it's that we can't guarantee with scheduling that we're always going to have a notary present. So the policy now just reflects that. It doesn't say that there won't be, it just says that they may have a long wait. And I didn't want to specify the amount of time that they might have to wait because we can't guarantee. It's always best to make an appointment. And that's the change to the notary policy.
Has there been a change? Aren't the supervisors all notaries?
So as I understand it, all of the full-time librarians were required to be notaries.
And the supervisors?
Like and the only person who hasn't yet is the technology manager.
Well, he just got here, but there's always some supervisor in the library. So why wouldn't they be there to?
There isn't always a supervisor in the library. I'm sorry. There's not always a supervisor available to notarize documents. If the supervisor is at lunch, if the supervisor is running a program, things like that. They're not sitting at a desk and waiting to see if someone needs a notary. So that's why we're saying if someone comes in and they haven't made an appointment, on-demand notary service is not something where we've got someone sitting by who's solely waiting to notarize documents.
But there's more than one person that's there, that beside the supervisor that's in the building, there is a full-time librarian or somebody. My concern is we have attitude. Our attitude on getting a passport, we really haven't changed the verbiage. You better get an appointment because that's really what we want. We've never had a problem with notary services. If they came in, you just did it. If they have to wait, they have to wait. They're not idiots. They know if you're doing something, you can't drop everything.
And that's all we've said.
Excuse me?
That's all that we've said is if we have notary service during the hours that we're open, if there's no appointment, you may have to wait. That's all.
As long as we word it nicely.
Yeah,
Not that, yeah, just to use a library, you have to tell us ahead of time. I think people with notary, may not have a lot of time to plan it, whatever. But I just think that we have to be careful that we're not customer friendly. And I just don't want to put one more thing on it. If it's worded, the way you say, okay, fine. I think people know that if they come in and there isn't anybody there, they have to come back later, or we tell them to go to the bank. But there should be somebody there to notarize it. It used to be that everybody was a notary. And that's when we then went it back to full-time librarians and supervisors.
Well, and that's why, just to let you know, this is very strange to me, because we always would have in our libraries one notary, and that was typically an administrator. And that person, to require that every person become a notary, there's a liability that's associated with that, that we want to make sure that we're addressing in the policy. For instance, some of the documents that we don't address. So we've made the language extremely mild, and all that we've indicated is that you may have to wait. If we didn't say that there's no service without an appointment, we just said, we suggest you make an appointment. Without an appointment, you may have to wait. That's all.
Could we see a copy of your final verbiage?
Yeah.
Do you have that with you?
I don't have it with me, no. but
Okay,
we can,
I'll pull it up right now.
Just
Wasn't there another change?
the
about-
other change was that we had a request for essentially a notary, after having notarized a signature, coming back and almost vouching for the validity of a loan application, which is a little bit deeper into the woods than we want to get with notary services. So the policy does clarify that we're just verifying the existence of the signature,
Right, that's what I thought. it
so-called
was.
normal notary services.
Yeah. That's what I thought.
In both cases, we just want to clarify so that people don't come in here and have expectations that we can't meet. Dr. George, you're right. It may be real quick, but we don't want to make any promises and then not be able to live up to them.
I think the clarification is essential, that it's just to verify their signature, that if that isn't in there, it needs to be.
It is in there now.
And I'm sorry, I sent it on to the policy committee.
Okay. So you'll share that with the full board. Right?
Okay.
We're not moving that policy tonight. Is that
I think
correct?
we were planning to.
We were planning to, because we've been through it a couple of times, but
But the full board should have an opportunity to review it before
right, and
before voting on it. So we can table it for one more month.
Okay.
Okay? All right, thank you. Maria, are you on the line with us now?
Yes, I am.
Okay,
I
so,
don't know what happened.
yeah, that's fine. We jumped out of finance and moved ahead. We skipped item B because you, being the committee chair, wanted you to be present for the discussion on the budget. So
Okay, thanks,
we're now
Kevin.
going to go back to finance, item B, approval of the 2023 library budget. So Maria, I will leave it to you if you'd like to make a motion on this.
I would like to make a motion to approve the draft budget in the amount of $3,818,718.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Okay, so now we'll go to discussion on the budget. I do know that it was sent out. There was some confusion related to the capital reserves, but I believe that was all addressed. So I'll leave it to anyone else that would like to bring up any discussion on the budget, have any questions, concerns for the committee or for the director? No?
No, we went over
Okay.
it ad nauseam.
Okay. Great. All right, then I will ask for roll call.
Sure. Dr. George,
Abstain?
Sarah,
Yes.
Maria,
Yes,
Rosemary,
Yes.
Esty,
Yes.
Frank Weber.
yes,
I'm sorry.
That was a
said
yes.
yes.
That was a yes.
Okay. Rocco
Yes.
and Kevin.
Yes. Thank you. Okay, so let's move ahead now. Do we have anything else for old business? Did anyone have anything?
can I ask about the finance committee with also the capital plan?
So what is it that you want to ask about the capital plan? So,
So this was a draft.
Okay,
And with Finance Committee, Maria, I don't think there were any more questions about the capital plan.
No, but when I looked it over, I don't remember seeing this. Hold on, I'm just trying to, the million and a half for Lawrence Harbor branch. I didn't know we were putting that in the capital budget.
No,
So
that's-
Building a branch was not our responsibility.
I think that was a placeholder for South Old Bridge.
it
isn't
is,
Yeah.
it says,
Oh,
in addition to Lawrence Harbor.
Oh, okay, then I read it incorrectly.
It just says this amount would be reserved for the construction of a new branch facility in addition to the Lawrence Harbor branch. And it should be noted that in the capital plan, there are things from main branch renovation to electronic key access upgrade. These aren't projects that we're committing to. This is a list of projects that, should we have capital funds available, the board would then be able to select which of these projects we would move ahead with. So it's more than we have or most likely would ever have. It's just that capital funds can be committed to any of these projects. And we need one in place for the state for the transfer form. So if it's in place, then I'll just make sure that it's available on the Google Drive.
I thought it looked good.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Could we add in could we add that in under the branch development, South Old Bridge?
Yeah, I just put, so I wrote, the amount would be reserved for the construction of a new branch facility in addition to the Lawrence Harbor branch. So if you want me to specifically say South Old Bridge, I can put that in there. Right
I would
now,
like
just-
that. I would
Okay.
like it because that CD the library has is put aside for a South Old Bridge branch.
Okay. I will take care of that tomorrow.
Thank you.
That was all.
okay. And I'll get a little bit more into that in one of my updates later. So let's move on to new business, amended youth services policy.
So currently, we have two policies that conflict. One is the unattended child policy, and that states that if only children 14 and over can be in the library without parental supervision. The problem is that we then have another policy that says that a child over the age, that a child who is at the age of 12 or over can be a caregiver for a younger child, meaning be responsible like a guardian for that child. Well, if you're not allowed to be in the library under the age of 14 without adult supervision, then we can't have 12-year-olds supervising 8-year-olds when they come to visit the library. So it's just addressing the conflict in the policy. And this, the age was decided that 14 would be the age, or it was suggested by the policy committee that the age 14, that children under the age of 14 should not be unsupervised in the library. And that's what was put forward.
And is this something we need a motion for tonight?
So yes, so any policy has to be approved by the
Right.
board.
But again, are we going to ask the board to review it first?
That I'm not sure how the policy committee
Yeah,
has functioned in the
That is
past.
the only change. So that
It's just the
discussion
age.
covers everything that's changed in the policies from what you already have approved.
It's just make sure the policy, currently the policy is in conflict.
Okay,
All we're doing is
So-
aligning them.
so then what I'll do is first I'll ask for a motion.
Okay.
I will make the motion.
Second?
I'll second.
Okay, then any discussion? And with that, I'll ask if anyone has any concerns with voting on this item without fully reading it, other than just being notified of just the update. So everybody's okay? All right, then I'll ask for a roll call.
Sarah,
Yes.
Maria,
Yes.
Rosemary,
Yes.
Esty,
Yes.
Frank Weber,
I don't think Frank,
Oh, he hung up.
he's on, but he's not on my phone, so I didn't know if he's muted.
I'll keep going. Rocco,
Yes.
Dr.
Do I
George,
need to do anything?
Yes,
No, I
And
don't
Kevin.
think so. Yes. Okay, so let's go on to the amended acceptable behavior policy.
Okay, the acceptable behavior policy currently states that smoking is prohibited in the library. It does not state that vaping is prohibited in the library. So when I was walking around and I saw someone, believe it or not, trying to sneak vape in the library, and unfortunately, without the policy, there's an issue with my trying to enforce that. So
Okay.
all I want to do is add that smoking and vaping are prohibited in the library.
Yeah, and that aligns with state law. When you're in a public place where smoking is prohibited, smoking is defined to include vaping, but let's not invite the clarification. Let's just make it
Yeah.
instead.
I agree.
And again, don't correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that's the only revision to the policy from what's already been in place.
It's the only revision at this time, yes.
Did you
Okay.
ask the person to stop or just out of curiosity?
Not at
Did you
that
not?
time,
Okay.
because, I mean, technically, he got away with it before I actually really saw him, but I saw him.
Okay,
Sorry, having been a teacher
yeah.
for a long time.
Hey, Frank, are you on?
Yeah, I got a question because my phone cut out. I just gotta ask a question.
Go ahead.
This is on the one that has already been approved, but I just want a clarification.
This is on the youth services.
Clarification I'm
policy.
saying is a 14-year-old able to, example, what if he comes in with 3 6-year-olds? Is that allowable under this?
Yes,
Yeah.
so what is defined in that policy, currently it says that a 12-year-old could bring in 3 6-year-olds. What we're doing is just raising that to 14, that a
That's a
14-year-old,
plus.
yeah.
So there's no limit on the number of children that a 14-year-old can supervise.
I mean, there is, it says that a child, can be a guardian of another child. It doesn't say they could bring in a Boy Scout troop. It doesn't say that they could be babysitting and bring in a daycare. It says that they can be guardian of
Of a-
another child.
Of another child, and that's the way I would take it. So
Yeah.
if a 14-year-old came in with a younger brother or sister, and I might even say, maybe it should even include that it should be a sibling or a relative or a cousin or something. I don't know. That's, I see as a different issue than, 2 kids whose parents drop them off and one happens to be 14 and one's 13. And they say, well, you guys can go to the library and hang out for the afternoon because, we have nothing, it's raining out. There's nothing for you guys to do.
And it's a caregiver situation, so clearly a 13 and a 14-year-old, that's not a caregiver.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's no way to write this 100%. I'm just letting you know that from having been doing it for a while. I think what we want to do is make sure that if we do have, a kid who's in foster care and they have one of their foster siblings with them or something, that we don't get, first of all, there's no way to prove a familial relationship. You can't ask a 14-year-old for ID and that kind of thing. And I think our librarians do a very good job of making sure that there's adequate supervision. And if there's an issue, then we'll certainly bring it up and talk to that child and look for a parent or anything like that.
And you also have, to Frank, to your point with the 14-year-old with 3 6-year-olds, you have disruptive behavior language in there already that's always been in there. So if things are not working out in the environment of the library, regardless of the age or nature of the patron, you can still enforce your policy, regardless of the age of the people involved.
Okay,
So you're okay with your question, Frank?
yes,
Okay, so we're on the acceptable behavior policy. So,
Yeah.
okay, so you've completed the change on that.
Yes,
Okay,
and just
so-
in case anybody was concerned, I do want you to know that because I circle the library a couple of times a day and make sure that I'm looking at everybody, the person who I had thought was vaping now regularly goes outside. So I think he got the point without there being an interaction.
Okay, so I will do the same thing. I'll ask for a motion first.
I'll make the motion.
Thank
I'll
you.
second.
Thank you. Okay, any discussion? And any concern with voting on this? No? Okay, so then I'll ask for a roll call.
Rosemary,
Yes.
Esti,
Yes.
Frank Weber,
yes,
Rocco,
Yes.
Dr. George,
Yes,
Farah,
Yes.
Maria,
Yes.
and Kevin.
Yes. Thank you. Okay, any other new business? No? All right, we'll go to the director's report.
One thing that I wanted to check in with everyone, I had been kind of making an assumption that we were kind of on the same page with the director's report. So what I try to do is instead of discussing every one of these things, I try to get it into a report so that everyone has a chance to take a look at it. And if no one has any questions, then I kind of assume that people are in agreement. Would the board like me to spend more time going over the director's report? Or is it safe to assume that people have read it and are moving on?
I think it's safe to assume that people have read it and are moving on.
Okay.
However, I think it's always good to give just some of the highlights, and then we can ask if there's any discussion for it.
Okay, so a couple of things, because I've got a whole bunch, there's, between when I finish the report and we have a meeting, there's always 10 more things that happen that I've got to discuss. So one of the things that I really want to make sure that people are okay with is Niche Academy. Niche Academy is, instead of using YouTube for our public videos for information literacy instruction and training for our staff, that this platform is something that I would like to have. And if no one has any objections to that. The next part that I wanted to really check in with is the Idea Farm and sewing. So as we move forward with slowly reawakening and getting the Idea Farm going, one of the things I've been asked about repeatedly is the sewing program, because it was really popular here and it was volunteer based. I'll be presenting a special report on the Idea Farm and the reopening of the Idea Farm. But as I envision that, it's going to be collaborative between technology and adult services. We're looking at our crafts and technology. That's primarily what's here. And we've got to get started somewhere. We have a number of contingencies with other committees and reports and things like that that are required to really get things going again. But as a, for instance, relying on volunteers and only having programs that people volunteer for sorely limits what we can do with the Idea Farm. So as an example, it would take $2,000 in supplies to get us going with the sewing program again. And then we had a person who actually works for Joanne Fabrics who gave us a proposal for $5,000 for 23 classes throughout the year for all different varieties. That would be about $5,000. That's about a $7,000 investment in that direct craft learning proposal. And that's just one thing, right? So we've got other people. When we were interviewing, we're interviewing for DSS, and I know that the person for digital support services, and I know that the person's really good at Adobe Photo Suite, then I'm going to be saying, hey, this may not be the job, but maybe you want to put a program proposal together for Adobe for that kind of thing. So I will be putting a proposal forward that with the Idea Farm, what is our funding? What does that look like with the Idea Farm? What's the staffing requirements on our end to coordinate, to advertise, to do all of those things? And that's going to be in the future. So we'll start slowly then with maybe using the sewing program just as a way to get started again. I'm not sure we're ready to move into soldering again. We've got soldering irons, and I'm not sure how we get quite there. Did anybody have any other questions about the director's report? Okay, then I'll ask if everyone had a chance to look at the information technology special report.
Yes.
So this report is here just to show you the sheer volume of projects that have to get done.
Yeah.
So you may have seen that we now, just since, when was it? August, we hired a technology manager. So he's in, we've got a lot of projects, from the building rewiring to the server work to the network renovation, that have to get done. So technology programming and classes, it's on our radar. We're coming, but these are the priorities that have to get done first. And I just wanted to give you all an idea of what the costs are. And I've also been working on a document like this with Adam since he started, so that we're crossing off the projects as they're getting done and nothing's falling off the radar.
The only problem with the report was, maybe I'm stupid, but I don't know who provided it. There's no name on it. Did the Adam do it, or did you do it, or?
Well, any special report that comes with the director's report is part of the director's report, so that's from me. Adam and I worked on it together, because I would collaborate with him on solutions.
Could you somewhere on it identify who the reports are coming from? Because we've gotten others where I'm looking at this, and if I had a question, I don't want to bother you. If it was Adam that did the report, I would ask him. So,
Right,
Well-
but his
well-
report is in the department head's report.
And I think the chain of command, Chris, would go through the director anyway. Is that
Right,
correct?
you would normally, if it's included in the director's report, even as an attachment from a supervisor, you would go through the director for the information as trustees.
this came separate. It didn't come attached to anything. The information technology special report.
But it came from the director.
Well, how do I know that?
No, because we just get the zip file and it's just one of the files. It's not necessarily like right under the director's report or labeled director's report. It just
And
said
I,
informational.
So anything that we receive,
Mhm.
right, we have to make the assumption that it came through Dawn, right? So if I received something that was completely incorrect, let's just say,
Yeah,
I would ask Dawn why. Now,
Right.
she may not have created that document,
right.
but certainly it's the staff that reports under her, and it's
No,
her
I agree.
responsibility to
I'm
speak to
just-
them
I was just,
and
yeah.
understand. So the right way to go about it is for us to go directly to the director, and then she may say, okay, this is information technology, Adam provided me this, but let me speak with Adam and I'll
Yeah.
come back to you on that.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. I was just
Mhm.
saying to Joan's point,
Mhm.
there's no like attachment. It's just a
Right.
zip file of files.
and I have no problem with putting something on the bottom. I thought that I had set a precedent because I've sent 2 other special reports
Yeah,
before and no one questioned where they were coming from. So
Yeah.
I assumed that we were okay with that.
Yeah.
The
Okay.
Lawrence Harbor was one of them
Yeah.
and some things
I
like
think
that.
those were like clearly you probably, and this is like Adam's specialty. So maybe, but again, I
Okay.
agree. We should come to you. I
Only
agree.
because we have, Adam has a section and I just want to bring
Yes.
everyone's attention to department reports.
Yes.
And Adam has a section in the department reports where
Yes.
anything that he has to see would be added there. But when it does come to programming and things like that, this is where you're going to find your numbers and those kinds of things. So one of the things that at some point, I don't know if it's executive committee who will sit down, but just to look at these statistics, are they meaningful to you anymore? Is getting them monthly helpful? Website statistics, web hits are extremely important. I don't see them in here. Foot traffic coming in every day. We're getting between 500 and 600 people a day are coming into this library. Reporting those details and what our hourly numbers are every month is, you're just gonna glaze over and eventually nobody
Mhm.
cares anymore.
Yeah.
So these are important. Okay, so now I'll come to things that have happened since then. The Lawrence Harbor signage, which has been a lot. The people came out and turned off the electricity to the sign. The wrap around the Lawrence Harbor sign looks great. But it was still being lit up at night, which I didn't even realize, and it was shining through the wrap. We aren't McDonald's. We don't need to have a lit up sign at night. So the wrap is there. It looks nice. The signage looks great. I agreed with our police department, moving on to another topic, that on our training, December 15th, that if the department requires that we pay the overtime for active shooter training, that we would pay that. It's an hour. Next, I've been really excited about room scheduling software to really help us with our events and our calendars and things like that. I just want you to know that the company that I've relied on for years, I called them and they told me that they're going out of business. So we've been in touch with East Brunswick and they have a great software system for their scheduling and their rooms and their events. They hired a web developer to integrate it into their website.
Okay.
So that's a solution that we're going to be looking at. The software that I'm talking about was fantastic. They bought out a small company and it was such a beautiful software and they bought it out to make it big and then they just drove it into the ground. So that's just sad. Let's move away from that. All right,
Actually, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I have a question back to the training. Are we talking about the training at all? That
so
you guys are having?
yeah, I sent the draft.
Yes.
Okay. And we can certainly, do you want to do that now?
I just wasn't sure if you were
Yeah.
gonna go to
No.
it, and I was just, because I saw like a trustee meet and greet or something, so I was wondering if we were gonna be there all day or just for
No.
that. Okay.
So, what people had asked, Maria, I think that you had asked about a draft of our, tentative training schedule. For our training day on Friday, December 15th, when the library will be closed for training. I just want to add here that, I took care of an exception with the state because last year the library didn't have enough non-librarian training to meet state requirements that we do this year. Specifically, but one of the reasons because we're having this training. So that's going to take care of that, and the exception has been taken care of as well. So I thought it would be good to put in a trustee / friends meet and greet only for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
For anybody who wants to come in, who can stop in to meet staff, to introduce yourself, to know who they are, just to start to build that rapport with the trustees and the friends, if that makes sense. Are there any other questions about the agenda for the training day?
What are the arrangements for lunch?
Haven't gotten to that yet. I was thinking of a potluck and asking staff to bring in just as a bonding exercise, but that might be for breakfast, and then for lunch, I guess the plan would be, if we're not going to serve anything, that people would be on their own.
I think in the past, when we had workshops, lunch was provided with funds from the Friends.
Okay, and we'll certainly look into that, and I'll keep you all updated. Okay. Building documents. We've been working with the planning department. There were 2 file cabinets in the back of one of the meeting rooms that were used for people who couldn't make it between 9 to 5 to the planning department. It hadn't been updated since 2018. I contacted them because people wanted the room and the space for use with the ESL program. They came in, said that they didn't need anything. We've cleared it out. I'm waiting to hear from them to see if they want to start putting things here again. But with the advent of technology, I don't really see them needing to do that. We are doing a major clean out. We've had a lot of things hiding in our closets. We've got a lot of records. In my office alone, I have things going back to 2015 through many directors. So we're really getting through that. We've got equipment that was broken. No one knew what to do with it, so they put it in a closet. So we're making sure that everything's working, and anything that we don't need, we're trying to find a home for within the town before we look at getting rid of anything. The HVAC system has been taking a tremendous amount of my time. We have, at any point in time, temperatures where everything is set to 70, we've got down to 61 we've had, and up to 77. And it says that the temperature has never changed. So what we've got is the manufacturer of our rooftop units. Sorry, just to let you know, I have a vocabulary in this because everybody in my family is a contractor and every library director is a facility manager. So you've got the units themselves, which as long as they're functioning and producing heat or cold, they're off the hook. Then you've got the Metasys system, the Johnson controls, which were brought in to control all of these boilers and units. That system is only supposed to control the units. So when I have a meeting, I've got to coordinate our HVAC, maintenance people with Trane, with Metasys. But basically what I've told them, this is the contract that we just did, where we look paying them to monitor things where they come here. But I've basically told them that if all of the thermostats are set right and they all say 70 degrees, but I've got these varying temperatures around the building, then either there's no point in them, or we've got an engineering problem, which is a much bigger deal. We've got thermostats around the building. Garrett, Bodnar and I are tracking to make sure that everything's comfortable. I've also looked into OSHA conditions for New Jersey because that is important. Surprisingly, anything below 68 and up to 79 is acceptable. And outside of that range, what the requirement is you have to be examining the HVAC system. And that's what we are doing. We've been taking active steps to do that. It is difficult because we're not allowed to use space heaters in the township of Old Bridge because of other concerns with liability. So we've got no way to fix the situation for those people. Right. We're doing a lot of work, and I just want to say once again, our new custodian is doing a tremendous amount of work. Proactive versus reactive. He's out there making sure that things are really functioning well. All right. I think that is all that I have. I also want to make sure that we're aware that in Fridays, when the ice rink opens, we're looking to make sure that we have coverage on Friday evenings so that we don't have groups of adolescents who are in the building looking for some fun. I also want to thank all staff. Old Bridge Day was not quite what the normal celebration would have been due to weather. And we had 1,286 people come to the library that day for the programs that we had here to assist with Old Bridge. And that takes a tremendous amount of work from staff. So unless there are any additional questions, that's all I have for today.
I was able to take a hoopla book out in the afternoon, like twice.
Okay.
So whatever you did worked your magic, it worked. And my husband also said the same thing. He's like, did Dawn change something with the, and I'm like, yes.
Yay.
She did.
So what we
So
did
it
with
was nice.
Hoopla,
Yeah.
we've talked about that, is we had a meeting with Jonathan Upton of LMXAC and formerly of Old Bridge Public Library. Just so you know, when I report on like the database meetings are the precursor to being able to make changes to the website. We've got to decide what we have, why we have it, whether we're going to have it the next year. Then we actually have to make sure that all of our librarians at the adult services and the youth services desk are familiar with each and every one of those databases and that we offer. And right now, there were some databases that people didn't even know that we were getting anymore. Then there has to be training to make sure that people are aware of all the resources that we have for reference in both adult and youth services. But these are all the steps to updating the website.
Anyone else on the director's report? So I'll just.
I have one question though,
Yeah.
Kevin.
Yeah, go ahead, Maria.
I was wondering, Dawn, do you have any updates on replacing the doors?
Yes, the order for the doors was put in about 2 weeks. Oh, and thank you. Yes, sorry, one other thing too. So I will get an update from them. They had said it was 10 to 12 weeks, and that was 2 weeks ago. So that puts us now at 8 to 10 weeks. I'll get an update from them before our next meeting. Then we also have the estimate came in from the vendor who previously did the power washing and the glass cleaning. So it's 10,800. That's not just the power washing, that's cleaning every single inch of glass in this entire building, inside and out.
Oh, wow.
And they asked me if I wanted that estimate, and I do. Because if you look at all of the glass that's up in the top of there, that's not cleaned, there's no way to clean it, it's got to get done. This is the vendor that we used before that we had satisfactory service from. And they've said that the estimates may seem a bit high this time because we haven't had it done in so long that it's going to take a lot more to get the stains off of the exterior of the building. So unless there's an objection, we're going to move ahead. The other thing with the building is as soon as we get the exterior doors done, the exterior and interior automatic doors were put in at the same time. So you can kind of figure that if one's gone, the other's going. So we're gonna get an estimate, to go ahead to get that done.
Well, how many estimates did you get on the door?
On the door, what we did was we went through the town's QPA program.
Right?
Because it's over the budget or the bid threshold of 17.5, and we
Mhm.
to avail ourselves of that. So it was posted on the town's website. So in addition to our contractor who's been here for a long time, we got one other. I think this was detailed in last month's director's report. That estimate was about $1,400 more than our regular contractor. But because those were the only two estimates that we received, I checked in with the town's QPA to see if we could move forward with that, because that contractor's been servicing the library for 20 years. They're extremely reliable, and they're the ones who begged us to get the doors fixed so that we stopped wasting money on repairs.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
So I'm just gonna ask about Lawrence Harbor because I believe it was July meeting. We discussed the plan for Lawrence Harbor and that we would get a quarterly report on where we stand with programming and hours and so on. I think we've made a large investment in Lawrence Harbor, and I'd like to see it move forward and become successful. So my understanding is the one thing that's holding us back is a librarian position. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm just gonna ask, I've spoken to Dr. George. We will bring that up and let the personnel committee discuss if they want to move forward or have a discussion. So hopefully, I think we can bring that forward within the next month or so. But do we have any other updates on Lawrence Harbor?
Lawrence Harbor, the thing right now, the signage is done, the furniture is in, those kinds of things, but without someone dedicated to evaluating what's going in, what's going out, promoting it, the collection, and all of that, we're a bit limited in increasing our hours. So that was the point of it, was to get things moved over, and then we would decide when and how to increase the hours and have a grand reopening. So that when we discussed it, I'd said we were going to have the grand reopening. We're still waiting on staffing in order to get that done. And I have also checked in, there's not enough space for programs there. So I checked in with Matt Mercurio of Parks and Recreation, and we would be able to collaborate with them so that when we have our programming, we can actually have our programming at the Parks and Rec facility, because in the off season, it's not used very much. So that means that we'll be able to make better use of that space. And that's just a bonus for everybody. But then we'll get into a regular cycle of programming for all different people. There were last month, now mind you, we're open 12 hours a week. And there were about 42 book checkouts there. Again, without being staffed, without being fully stocked with books and with programs and things like that, I don't think we're going to see the real potential of what can be done there.
I'm sorry, maybe I'm confused, but what's the issue with staffing? Is it that interviews haven't happened, or like what's the issue? Like, where are we starting? Like, what is the personnel committee doing? Like, I'm not on it, so I don't know. Like, where are we stuck here? Because I thought we were having a grand reopening like now.
So in July, we had discussed it and
Yeah.
said that we were hiring a full-time librarian.
Right.
So what I did was put forward for the personnel committee a proposal that would take care of that change and the other change that we had discussed, which
Okay.
was moving back to the adult services manager and youth services manager and the Lawrence Harbor. And if we discussed all of those things, it was one kind of change. So I
Okay.
sent that proposal in August.
Okay.
And we're waiting to have that discussion.
Okay, so the personnel committee has to decide the job titles and then you can interview.
The report and the job
that it?
descriptions, my suggestion for the report, the rationale and the job descriptions were sent in one report.
Okay. Because this is like, it's almost like a little bit embarrassing, honestly, because we like made this whole big deal, like Lawrence Harbor is opening, it's opening, and the people are like telling us at, you know, Saltwater Day and whatever, that like we need more hours, and then we're just sitting on it. Like, why? Sorry, that's upsetting to me, because like we put so much into this and we need to expand those hours. Like that needs to happen. I'm sorry. That's upsetting. Okay, I'm done.
Okay. All right, anything else in director's report? So we'll move to committee reports. I'm going to start with the executive board. We met, I don't know, about a week and a half ago with the director, which was an agreement that we were going to do when we hired the new director, that we would give that person, Dawn now, the opportunity to come in and familiarize herself with the operations of the library and the needs of the library, and then have a sit down with them and discuss, you know, what our priorities are versus what she sees needs to be focused on. And I think that the executive board and the director were pretty much on the same page. Everything that we had identified, staffing, outreach, branch development, capital projects, and then a separate item that's not really involving the director, improvements for the board. She has already been focused on. So that was great to see that. She, as I had mentioned, there is the Google Drive where she's updating the information. We'll all have access to that. We'll be able to see the progress on a lot of these things. So the next action point that I have is that we are going to have a board meeting where we can sit down. Chris will start with a quick training for trustees. And then we'll get into a little bit of action items as far as, you know, putting together strategic planning, identifying what we feel are the, you know, the big items for capital projects that we want focused on. How do we get the outreach and branch development that we're looking for, such as reinstating the van service and so on, and promoting programming and passports and all of that. I did send an email to all of you. I would like to do that 2 weeks from tonight. I figured a Wednesday night. We're all typically, you know, at a meeting here on the second Wednesday. So I'm hoping that Wednesday works for all. If we did it 2 weeks from tonight at 7 p.m. I've got a couple of responses, but not too many more. I did speak to Chris. He was going to look to make sure that he's available as well.
I am good.
You are good.
Yes.
Great. Thank you. So do I have any objections to putting something together for the 25th? Because I'd like to ask to have that advertised.
Good. No, that's good.
Yeah. Okay.
Can
So
I ask?
I was just going to ask you if you could take an action point to advertise for that meeting. That-
Advertise for the meeting on the
It's a,
25th.
Crystal, how
Yeah,
would
because
we
it would be a
advertise
public
it?
meeting. It would just be a special meeting of the board.
October 25th.
October 25th at 7 p.m.
And we will go into executive session for various different reasons, but you don't advertise that because you can go into executive session at any publicly advertised meeting.
And she should state that no action will be taken, correct? Because we will not be taking any action.
If we can confidently say that, then yes, the public will be included. No formal action will be taken. And then the public will be included to the extent we're not in executive session. To the extent you're in executive session, the public, as always, will be asked to step out.
Okay, and I'm assuming I'm at that meeting?
No. So, and I'm a little confused, Chris.
Okay.
Does this need to be a public meeting?
Yeah,
Because
that's-
my idea was, it was a training for the trustees initially, and then let's just talk about what we see as priorities. And then we can identify that to the public at the November
Yeah,
meeting.
if we're gonna be talking about ethics and roles, I'm just looking on your computer, staffing and finance, then yes, we could do all of that legally in executive session if that's your preference, to
Mhm.
keep it simpler. Therefore, Dawn,
Yeah.
can you change that, please, to advertising it that it will be an executive session special meeting? Public will be excluded. No formal action will be taken. And then we can update the public in November or
Yeah.
December or whenever
Right.
about what the growth of that meeting has been.
A couple of questions. So for the trustee training hours, which are a requirement for getting our state funding, who has typically kept track of those hours?
So
I-
in the past, I've been asked how many hours. I've
Okay,
reached out and to individuals that I know that have taken some training and found out what they've taken the hours. So if you need a compilation, I can certainly gather that.
okay.
Because I know, for instance, Rosemary's taken some, Estee's taken
I
some.
did
I
a
don't know about
lot.
any
They're a
others.
lot of fun, aren't
Um,
they?
No, I couldn't because I was on the.
Oh, okay, okay.
No, I did a
still have to
lot,
say
and
Okay.
it was when Phil was here, and every time I took one, I emailed him to tell him, yes, I took these 2 hours, this hour, this hour, this hour.
Okay.
But I thought he was keeping track of it, but
Did they not send
I
you a
don't-
certification? Because most of the time when you
No.
take a training like that, they normally do send a certification.
I,
they
I
weren't
can- I
all,
have
like-
access to Phil's accounts, so
Okay.
I'll see those emails and I'll have those. And are the trustees interested? Because I regularly get invitations to training sessions.
Yes.
So I'll forward them on. There's no
Yeah.
response, so
Mhm.
there's nothing
Mhm.
inappropriate about the communication. Okay,
yeah, I mean, I pay attention to the New Jersey Library monthly emails.
yeah,
So they've kind of like tapered down as to what they're providing, and they have like a monthly catch up kind of thing where you can like go on and like ask questions and talk to, like whatever. And I haven't really been involved in any of that, but like earlier in the year, they had like a lot of different trainings and seminars, and like I did a lot of that. So
and I just want to say ahead of that meeting that when it comes to the prioritization of programming and the outreach and marketing, my proposals, my solutions that I've architected for the library are included in the proposal that was sent to the personnel committee for how we would handle that moving forward.
Did you have something else? You were gonna, no, that's, it. Okay.
Sorry.
All right, so that's all I have on that. Yes,
One of the things that I think needs to be done before you start talking about staff in Lawrence Harbor is to get an accurate picture of what the true activity is from a historical standpoint. Because obviously the library was closed down permanently by the mayor in December 2017, which is almost 6 years now. And I think
Frank, can you get a little closer to the phone? We can't hear you.
is that better?
Yes, much
Yes.
better.
Okay. So I reckon, yeah, hold on, I gotta move away from the speaker. I believe that we should be going through our membership rolls and take people out who haven't been here in 4 or 5 years, not use it, to get down to a true number of people that we have in that zip code now. All of Lawrence Harbor is in 08879, which includes other parts of town. But as you know, Ward 1 is considerably larger than just Lawrence Harbor or Cliffwood Beach. So the Cliffwood Beach people generally, with the exception if you have some programs down there for children, which you haven't had in quite a while. My opinion, most people who have to get in their car to drive to Lawrence Harbor, it's only a couple miles, 3 miles to the main line. So you really have to know who you're anticipating drawing to that building, I think, before you decide the hours and the staffing. And without having that underlying
So-
information, we could have a problem.
And Frank, totally agreed, and I think that what we had agreed back in July was that this librarian that we were going to hire was going to get him or herself familiarized with the community, speak to the community, get engaged, be at that library and speak to people as they come by and find out what hours, what programs, what services they're looking for. I'm hoping that this becomes successful, and then we would utilize this same format, potentially even the same person, when we start to roll out South Old Bridge as well.
And that's what I included in my proposal to
If you
personnel.
don't have an accurate number of what you've had there before, which we do not, then I think you're just out there in just la-la land without even knowing if it's an attainable target.
Yeah, but we're talking about hiring one person, right? We're not talking about hiring like 12 people, like to see what we're doing. We need one person to go to expand the hours. And then we're already getting, you got details of people wanting more hours, nighttime hours, weekend hours at Saltwater Day. Like, we need to move forward with that. We're not gonna be able to evaluate what people need if there's nobody there.
I don't think we want to duplicate what was there before. I think we want to improve what was there before. And I also think that with concerns about this position.
Hold on a minute, Frank. Hold on a minute, Frank. Hold on a minute. Go ahead, Dawn.
With the concerns, which I certainly understand, that with a small branch and a full-time person, and that's why in my proposal to the Personnel Committee, I made it head of branch services, even though we don't have more branches right now, that person would be in charge of doing the outreach, doing the questionnaires, seeing what's off-site services, right? Maybe a branch doesn't always have to happen, but if the senior community has asked us to start having a pop-up library there, this is the person who would have the time and the expertise to develop
And
that.
this person would also oversee, I would imagine, the van drive event, and as we start to develop providing services via the van. So
Yep.
anything outside, going outside of Central.
Yes, anything
Schools
off-site
and-
from Central. And I'm going, I was invited to go to a large library system, which we're not a city library system, but I do think that there's something that I can learn from spending half a day in a community that's got 8 branches. Let's see
Yeah.
how they do what they do. So we're gonna do those things.
Or even Edison that has, I think, 2 branches and a Central branch.
Yeah, I mean, I just
Yeah.
want to see the mechanics
Yeah.
of it.
Okay. I can't hear him.
Reality of it is,
Frank, you gotta
Frank,
speak
you gotta
right at the
speak up
phone.
again.
Lawrence Harbor itself and Cliffwood Beach, there are a total of 4 ward districts. Totally, we have 66 wards throughout the town. So, they represent 4 out of 66. And the population generally is established that way. All I'm saying is, you should at least know where you've been, the numbers. And I think generally, we should be purging ourselves of members who are not responding at all, who haven't taken anything out in years. And so we get a true idea of how many people are serving in the town, rather than saying we have 26,000. And we probably do not serve 26,000.
Yeah, but then,
Information that this person, whoever it is, whatever you decide, should know that as well.
And they would, and once they're hired, they would have, that would be one of the primary responsibilities, was digging in and getting all of that research done. And all of that's detailed in what I proposed for the role.
but I mean, that person, I mean, if we put like, say, another, children's reading, story time, people from over here, they're gonna go there.
I've
Like,
already
it's-
been told this.
What about that?
It's
I-
not
I
only
think-
about, it's not only about the 4 districts in Lawrence Harbor. It's other
Right.
people from here would go there if we had more to offer, and we can't have more to offer without having a person and more hours there.
And I think it's the desire of the board, because we voted in favor of bringing this person on to do this task.
Yes.
So I think it's the
Unanticipated. The Board of Education is obligated by state law to have a full-time 3- and 4-year-old preschool paid for by the state and the local taxpayer. So roughly, in the next 5 years, they're virtually looking for 90% of the children in that age group will be going to a full school day, which is certainly going to eliminate some of the ability to have some of the classes that you currently have. So,
I don't think it would eliminate, I think it would put a higher demand on the library for doing the story times and having the reading materials.
my point is, with the exception of weekends and after they get home at 4 o'clock, they get to school at 9 o'clock. It's not going to give you many hours between 9 and 4 where you're going to get those kids out of school.
It is, It is if the branch manager is collaborating with the teacher to offer story times and library visits where children can take out books. That absolutely would increase the demand and the traffic in that branch.
Schools don't have libraries anymore.
Okay, let's move on. Joan, did you have something you wanted to add?
Me, no, not really.
Okay. All right.
Only that it's very hard to hear you people, and with the kind of surplus money we have, I can't believe that we can't develop a better way. I don't know how Frank and Maria and Sarah feel, but I've heard about a third of what you've talked about
I thought you were hearing us better with the new
in
microphone.
the beginning.
Okay.
Oh, maybe it was the
Well,
phone.
yeah, we're gonna have to work on sitting around it, speaking directly into it. So let's move on. Buildings and grounds, Rocco, anything?
Nothing new.
Thank you. Finance, Maria, anything else other than, I think we covered a lot on finance today.
Yes.
Frank, outreach marketing, anything?
Nothing changed since last meeting. I want to see who's in charge of the local government next year, and then I think.
The answer there was that there's nothing new on outreach, and he's gonna wait to see what the change in the local government is. I don't know if everybody's hearing that.
Yeah.
All right, personnel negotiations, Joan,
We have a meeting on Friday with Chris to work on our negotiations with the supervisors unit. And at that time, the personnel committee will also decide when we can have another meeting to discuss some of the issues that are outstanding.
okay, thank you. Policy, Rocco, anything else other than?
Other than
we
what we did at this meeting today, nothing else.
Thanks. And Frank, anything on technology?
At this time.
Not at this time. Okay. So if there's nothing else from any of the board members, I will open it up to public comments. Now, we have some individuals online and in public as well. I will go to the in public first, since they've taken the effort and the time out to come out tonight, before we go to those that are online. So anybody, so we have a 5-minute limit on any comments. And if anyone would like to speak, raise your hand or step on up.
Is there a rule for resident or?
No.
Hi.
Hello.
My name is Caleb Hartman. I'm an Old Bridge resident, and I've been coming to this library for most of my life. I've volunteered with the Teen Advisory Board. I've actually probably checked out literally thousands of books, and I started the beginning of my reading journey here. I have come today to ask that certain books be age restricted due to extreme sexual content inappropriate for children. First, I would like to lay down the context for what I'm about to say. I, like I believe many other people are a supporter of human rights, and I believe everyone deserves to be loved and respected. This is not about hurting or suppressing people who are part of a certain community. This is instead about the contents of books that I believe have the potential to negatively affect children. I think there's a respectful way to go about raising content concerns, and I am attempting to do so. If you disagree with me, and you are all more than welcome to do so, I would please ask for civility and respect. I'm not here to ban books. I'm here to make sure books are put into their appropriate places. No book deserves to be banned, but just as I believe 50 Shades of Grey should not be allowed to be in the children's section, so also I believe certain books should be placed where they're best comprehended. The first book I would like to mention is Melissa, formerly published as George by Alex Gino. In skimming over this book, I have come across some content concerns that I would like to address. In serving in the Teen Advisory Board, I personally have placed this book back in the children's section. This book attempts to discuss gender transitioning with a younger audience, and in doing so, presents some content concerns. Here are just a few quotes from the book I'd like to read all of you. Keep in mind, the following quotes are verbatim, and in this book...
I'm sorry. I just want to make sure that everyone is hearing you. Are you guys online hearing? Okay?
I was gonna say.
Yes.
Yeah? You guys?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
perfect. Yeah,
I just
because
wanted
the
to make sure everyone was
here.
hearing you. Go ahead.
microphone-
And in this book, George/Melissa uses she/her pronouns. She immersed her body in the warm water and tried not to think what was bobbing between her legs, but there it was, bobbing in front of her. In this second quote, George had been reading websites about transitioning since her older brother Scott taught her how to clear the web browser history on mom's computer. I do not believe such comments are appropriate for young children ages 4 to 12. I would like to request you move this book to the young adult or adult section. Next, I have a graphic novel, this one named Genderqueer by Mia Kawabe. This book has been the subject of many fierce debates, and so to settle the score, Here are just a few quotes from said book. I was 11 or 12 the first time I can remember fantasizing having a penis. I remember holding a folded handful of grass in between my legs, safe in the knowledge that, if discovered, I could release my imaginary member and it would disintegrate back into scattered stalks. And the second quote is referring to a pap smear test. The speculum entering my body felt like a knife being shoved into my vagina. I screamed and immediately started sobbing. The doctor quickly withdrew. I believe the preceding quote adds further stigma to receiving life-saving healthcare. This book is targeted to young adults, and I believe this adds fear to an otherwise simple test and could potentially hurt someone just trying to receive vital healthcare. I would also like to acknowledge that I know at this specific library this is an adult book, but also that this book can be rented out by other libraries in your systems by a teenager. I want to discourage this book from ever becoming accessible to teenagers because it is not conducive to a learning environment. Lastly, I want to talk about the book All Boys Aren't Blue by George M. Johnson. This book, found in your catalog, can be found in the young adult section. As a young adult myself, frankly, I don't think this book is appropriate. It has graphic descriptions of sex and incest that, frankly, I don't feel comfortable reading aloud, much less give to a 13-year-old, which I believe is the minimum for the adult section. I have some quotes for you all from all three books upon request, and I would encourage you all to pick up this book so children like me do not have to. As a teenager, it's not easy for me to speak out. Sometimes I feel like I'm a teenager intruding on an adult's spaces because my voice, or like my voice is less valid because of my age. My voices and opinions don't always match that of my peers, so it's hard to find someone who understands what it's like to be different. It was coming here, practically learning how to read here, that started my thirst for knowledge and taught me that I have a voice in my community, no matter my age. It's because I grew up here that I can now come back here to be a voice for change. I want little children who come here to learn just as much as I did. I want this library to be a place where any person of any age can join others on a quest for knowledge, and a place where nobody has to read books they're not ready for. I want this library to be an accepted place, a place of acceptance for all, for people ages 1 to 99, so they can find their voice in the stories of others. So in conclusion, thank you for helping me be as knowledgeable as I am today, and I hope you all take my words to heart and make Old Bridge Public Library a safe space for everyone. Here are the quotes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And very well done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else?
Hi,
Hello.
good evening. I'm Kim Lindley. I'm from Old Bridge. I'm concerned about the quality and content of the books that are.
Can you move a
for-
little bit further in? Sorry,
I'm
just because the
concerned-
microphone
you
is
know,
right.
I'm gonna
here.
move
Am I a little bit better now?
Closer.
I'm concerned about the books for especially elementary children. And one of my concerns, I don't have as much, but I support his themes and about the Everybody Body book. And the title of the book really is the Everybody Body Book, the LGBTQ plus inclusive guide for kids about sex, gender, bodies, and families. So their basic summary in the book. It says this vibrant and beautiful illustrated book educates children about sex, gender, and relationships in a way that is inclusive of all sexual orientations and gender identities, covering puberty, hormones, pregnancy, consent, sex, babies, relationships, and families. It is used gender neutral language throughout and celebrates diversity in all its forms, including race, ethnicity, faith, bodies, gender, and sexuality. And the book is geared for children ages 8 to 12. If my child came home with that book, I would be beyond. So I just want you to consider my sentiments as my speaker before me, that to be concerned about the quality that's going out there, the material, age appropriate. I don't think that's age appropriate. They wouldn't even understand. So I just want to thank you for your time. And that's just one example that I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Oh,
I'm Carolyn,
hi.
and this is my first time at a library board meeting. I don't know if I can ask questions and. you
So
can
it's typically a comment, just as it would be at a council meeting
Comment on
or
Board of
elsewhere.
Ed.
So,
Okay.
yeah, you're more than welcome to make your comments. You have 5 minutes to
Okay,
speak, so, yeah.
so if I have questions, can I, would I write them out and you respond in writing? Or how would I go about getting a question answered?
So the best person when you have questions for the library is to go directly to the library director. She's
Okay.
available most times during the
Oh,
week, or
okay.
you could even email her. I believe
Okay.
your information is on the website.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, We happen to know Caleb. We do go to church together. He's 16 and wants to be a lawyer, and he has just really taken an interest. And as he told you, he worked here, volunteered here, came here many, many times, checked out books. And like him, I also am concerned, deeply concerned about the things that children at younger and younger ages are being exposed to. There was a book in the children's section on display called Door by Door, and it's by Sarah McBride, who's a trans, the cover of the book says the first transgender senator. And I don't know, I guess my question I'll put in writing to you would be how these books are ending up in our libraries with so much focus on transgender. And I think we all know that it's not possible to change your gender. These kids that are being influenced are maybe taking puberty blockers and hormones and having disfiguring surgeries, but they're not changing their gender. It's not possible. But small children are being influenced to think that if they're unhappy or uncomfortable in their bodies, which is a natural thing that kids go through, we all did. You know, many girls, including myself, grew up at some point being somewhat of a tomboy. I remember having my own gun and holster and cowboy hat because I had an older brother, and we played outside, and that's what we did, the neighborhood kids all together. If somebody had suggested to me at that time I might be in the wrong body, at 5 years old or whatever, devastating consequences for the rest of my life. And this is what's happening today. And I just wonder why we're seeing more and more drag queens too coming into libraries and having story hours for children. Not appropriate. I will be asking how many Bibles we have on the bookshelf, because those should be available. In children's editions and different versions for kids to read. Best-selling book of all time, the Bible. We should have many copies. And so I'll ask about that, but I'm just, like I said, as a parent, I want to see our children protected. And I don't think, I'm just wondering where all these books are coming from. And I know this is something that's being addressed more and more in school. I think it's a mistake. I think, we heard a report, I think it was in Old Bridge School. No, it was a different school district, about the rise of anxiety and depression in children. I think there's a link for sure. There's got to be between the stuff that's being introduced, untested, untried. It's uncharted territory, what these drugs are doing to their bodies and the way that this gender dysphoria is being handled. Anyway, just here out of concern for the kids.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hello.
Hello.
I apologize for my costume. I was just at the library's wonderful costume swap. It's going very well. Hi, I'm Christopher Fales. Some of you may know I've worked here for over 10 years. I just wanted to voice and say that I feel it's absolutely important for the library to continue to include information, stories, life experiences that anyone may agree or disagree with, as everyone has the right to choose what they would like to read, what their parents will allow them to read. The parents deserve the right to choose what their children take out, and the library should be about growth and education and not censorship. Thank you.
Thank you.
Also, Trans Lives Matter, and the Idea Farm is very wonderful and very missed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. I'm an Old Bridge resident. I'm the president of the Historical Society. And I'd like to thank the board for their continuing cooperation in our digital project. I met with your director, Dawn. We had a very good conversation. And I just wanted to feel out the library board's opinion. We as I discussed with the director, we have an additional tranche of documents that we want to get digitized and put up on the library reference board. And I just wanted to know from the library board their opinion on proceeding with this. And I know Dawn has been very positive in her feelings about getting this additional material up. I think the contractor that the library used very recently, after some additional push, was able to get the material up on the reference section for the library and for the township. And I'm hoping that we can continue to work together to try to get this additional material, which is some genealogical background materials on individual families, digitized, so we can continue to move on to the next tranche of material. I'm open to questions, or if anybody has any questions or want to work with me, I'll be glad to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, sir, we have one in the room. Go ahead. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ron Mack. We just moved here, and I want to thank you for your service to the library. My mother raised us, and that at 5 years old, we were all brought to the library every Saturday. And in lieu of watching TV, we learned a lot from that. And it influenced our education so much. I agree with this guy here. This area is so rich. We went to Mattawan when they had the reenactment of the Revolutionary War, and I'm telling relatives in other parts of the country, I'm 300 yards from an event that occurred. So this is very rich, and it's exploiting the history. I agree with my wife, is Carolyn. I agree with her. The Bible's the best-selling book of all time, without question. And I'll be curious as to what she puts in writing on it. Also, the transgender book she mentioned, which is out in open display. We've had many school board meetings. We're very actively involved in the Old Bridge School Board and others. And the transgender thing, we don't want to be. I agree with Mr. Caleb Hartman on age restricting. It's here. Are we using it? We'll say we are, but are we? Because the transgender is not going to end up well. And we shouldn't be encouraging minors to be going in this direction. It's a $2.1 billion industry. It's relatively new. It's growing like crazy. And it's no secret. It's starting to now litigiously develop in a whole new area. You can Google Chloe Cole, C-H-L-O-E, Cole, C-O-L-E. She's had transgender surgery as a minor. This doesn't relate so much to the library, but it's feeding. Are we going to feed this? And then she's gone back and sued her several people. And this is a growing litigious area that's going on. And it's these don't end well when we're talking double vasectomies and cutting off penises and castrations. That's what we're talking about. We really want to promote this and say in the idea of being open-minded, we want to promote this to minors. It's a travesty. Let's understand what we're really promoting in the transgender, because it doesn't end up well, and it's not good. And you'll hear suicide, 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 but you won't hear the suicide rate is the same or higher after the surgeries take place. So thank you very much. Look forward to getting to know this library. It's a fantastic looking library. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the public? Wait, we have someone coming up. Hello.
Hello, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
My name is Robert Hartman. I'm flying off the cuff here. I've been a resident since 1971. Little League, soccer, school, everything, Sandburg. And again, my son Caleb, we've come here to the library since ever. Yeah, I even think he holds the record for taking out as many books at one time as anybody did, like 75 or some crazy number like that. Yeah, and it's all good. I'm seriously, I'm thankful for all you guys are doing. I really do appreciate it. You know what I mean? But the reality of it is, we want to keep kids as innocent as possible, as long as possible. It's just that simple. You know what I mean? And that young gentleman who just came up here and spoke before, I'm not trying to stop anybody from learning. This is a library. Keep the kids safe. If you want to learn something, you go online, you can buy it.
The Old Bridge Public Library will be closing in 30 minutes. Please bring all items to the front desk. Thank you and have a good night.
Nothing today. So again, I'm just trying to encourage you guys, just keep the kids as innocent as possible. You know, if you have stuff that's here, put it in the proper section. again, we don't want to hinder these kids off from learning. Caleb learned, as he said. So again, just encourage you guys just to do what's right by the kids. It's just that simple. We all know what's right. We know what they should read, what they shouldn't read. We all know it. It's not brain surgery. You're very smart people, obviously. So I just really thank you and just hope that you do the right thing. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
you.
Anyone else?
Can I
Come on.
add-
Yep.
Add on,
Yep.
sorry. Yeah, the book that I got from your catalog actually is in your child section. So it's 3 and 8 under. So I just wanted to show you the book. Well, sorry. So if you'd like me to read a page, I can. Or if you want to see it.
No, I think we're okay. I'll cover a little bit about how we can address some of this in just a few moments once we hear from the
Because the
remaining
chapter I
public.
just
Yeah.
opened to, I just share this with you. Chapter 3, pubic hair and other changes down there. So if my kid was reading this, I would be up here, and the library turned out to be like one of the best resources for me. I loved it. And my kids loved it. My kids come here and it grew because they had a small Old Bridge library when I was little. And this great expansion is amazing. And the people overall are very nice, the staff. But to have a book like this is unbelievable. So, and then they have pictures, graphic. And can you imagine your child? I know it's redundant, but your children take a look at this and you don't even know it. And they wonder. I mean, they're vivid pictures. So it's just very, I don't even know what word I could say, but I want to thank you for letting me add on. So I
Thank you.
appreciate it. Okay, thank you very
Thank you very
much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Do we want
Anyone? Oh, sorry. Yeah.
I was just gonna say, do we want to see, is there anyone online?
Anyone online, you can either
There's someone in the waiting room.
raise your hand or,
sorry.
You
no,
had it open.
no, click that
Click it
down again, click that and
And
then
then
next
right,
to.
Melissa,
yep,
yeah,
there we
admit.
go.
Yeah.
Okay, so while we're waiting for this one person to join, is there anyone online in the public that would like to speak? Okay, so I'll give one last shout out for anybody that wants to speak. Okay, so I'll just make a quick comment. I do know that there was an issue raised during the week regarding one of the books that had been mentioned earlier as well. It was unfortunate that it was classified in the easy reader section. And it has been moved to, I believe it's the young reader section.
It's juvenile biography.
Juvenile biography, I'm sorry.
No, it's on this. I
we-
don't mean to interrupt, sorry.
We have a policy in place with a form called request for reconsideration. So if anyone comes across a book that they feel is classified in an incorrect location, and I completely understand the concern there. There is a form that can be completed and submitted. At that point, the director will review the book and review the content and determine. There are instances, unfortunately, where mistakes are made and books are placed in incorrect categories. So I apologize for that. I do believe that this issue was rectified, and there is, as I mentioned, the policy with the form. So I encourage people to take up that policy and look for that form if you feel that there is something that is in a category in a part of the library where it should not be.
What's the name of the form?
It is the request for reconsideration.
Question concerning the form. Once that's filled out and everything and it's submitted, what happens to this book? Does it get held for a period of time? And the person that fills out the application, do they get notified that that book is no longer in that area? And how do you prevent that from happening again? Because the other pictures, as I looked through this book, I mean, it had male, female, menopause, menopause, it's a variety of things.
Joan, can you give us a little bit of background on how you would handle that form?
Yes.
And would you obviously be reaching back to the individual that submitted that form?
Yeah, so I just want to make clear with the reclassification of the book, it wasn't the content of the book. It was that it's a picture book and it's not an easy reader because the picture book biographies are different. So that's the change in classification. So what I want to do is I'm going to show you on paper, but when you go to about library info and you click on library policies, you're going to see collection management policy, or collection development policy. And it's a lot, right? This is like 20 pages, but it really gives you the full background of how libraries make decisions, how libraries have been making decisions. And when we do have a request for reconsideration of material, what is the process? So I just want to share that with you.
Sure, that'd be great, thanks.
And anyone who comes in has been given this form if there's any issue with any book.
Okay.
The Old Bridge Public Library endorses and adopts as part of this policy, the American Library Association's Library Bill of Rights, freedom to read statement, freedom to view statement, and the access to library resources and services for minors. All of those are available with links in the policy from the website. Copies of these documents are included in the appendix, so they're all there for you. The mission of Old Bridge Public Library to provide information on a broad range of topics to people of all ages. Fulfill this obligation, the library collects material reflecting different points of view. The library does not endorse particular beliefs, ideas, or viewpoints. The selection of an item does not imply endorsements of the viewpoints of the author. Materials will not be sequestered on the basis of their contents. Customers are encouraged to express their opinions of the contents of the library's collection. These recommendations often provide librarians with information about the areas of the collection that may not adequately fulfill the needs of the community. Although the library welcomes the suggestions of its users, it will be governed by the collection development policy when deciding whether to add or delete an item from the collection. Customers who request the reconsideration of library material must complete and sign the request for consideration of library material form. A copy of this document is included in the appendix. Provided that this form includes the name and telephone number of the individuals making the request, it will be forwarded to the library director. Upon receipt of the formal written request, the director will obtain information from the library staff regarding the decision for ordering the material in question in order to understand the importance of the item to the subject area. The director may consult with outside professionals in the field. After studying this information provided by the selector, the director will respond in writing to the person who initiated the request for reconsideration. The director will inform the library board of trustees of all requests for reconsideration of library material and disposition of their requests. Excuse me. In the event that the person who initiated the request is not satisfied with the decision of the director, she may request a meeting before the board of trustees by making a written request to the board president. Upon receipt of the request, the board may place the issue on its agenda. The person who initiated the request will be notified of the time and place of the board meeting. The Board of Library Trustees reserves the right to limit the length of presentation and the number of speakers at the meeting. After hearing from the person making the reconsideration request, the board will determine whether the request has been handled in accordance with the stated policies and procedures of the Old Bridge Public Library. It will consider the information provided by library staff, the position of the customers, and the decision of the director. So this tells you how we make decisions about books, and this gives you the process of how an objection is handled so that we're serving the broad demographic of Old Bridge.
Okay, so I understand you get a copy and I understand everything that you said. So in the meantime, this book thing, somebody, because it's a 3D, so it's on the left side, and I understand. So where would this book be placed?
Where it is in the collection.
Where it still was, where I found
Yes.
it?
So the objection form is filled out,
Okay.
comes to
I
me,
understand that. That's
and I
fine.
immediately start the process.
No, I appreciate everything you did and read. That was fine. I just was curious where it went. So this goes back to the area that I got help with getting.
Unless you decide to change that.
Well, for
Once
now,
once
she's
it's
saying
been
for
reviewed.
now.
Right.
She's saying right now,
Right.
if there's an objection to the book, it's on the
Right,
shelf
correct. That's what
until
I'm
I evaluate and go through and the form is filled out.
I understand.
I-
I appreciate it.
I just want to get to the young man.
Oh, sure,
This
go
isn't
ahead.
really going to be a question and answer session, but he did a great job. I will give him an opportunity. Yes, sir.
So this policy you mentioned, how long has the policy set in stone? Is this a policy that a lot of libraries have? And is this a policy that can be amended or changed?
So it is a policy that can be amended and changed. It's been in place since prior to my arrival, considerable period of time prior to my arrival. It is a standard. This is a collection. Sorry.
The dates are on there. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure the dates where like,
Well, there's a lot of documents in
yeah,
here.
like some of the stuff is going back to like the 40s or 60s or like,
Right,
and
well-
then other things are like, they've been updated since like 2016 or
Right, and some of those are the ALA things, like
Right, right.
Freedom to Read statement was from 1953, and its most recently was updated in 2004. So those kinds of things, all of those dates are in here. What I'm pleased with is that there's an opportunity for anyone who objects to a book for any reason. And having been a librarian for a long time, I've seen a lot of reasons. I've also seen a lot of people make suggestions about books. And we are absolutely, every librarian on the planet is committed to making sure that we are serving the full demographic of the town or community or school where they are. So this doesn't, if it seems like blah, blah, it's not. It actually gives you some history and some understanding and an outlet for your concerns, because we do want to hear them. In the meantime, am I going to pull something immediately? No.
No, I
Yeah,
understand. that.
yep, yep.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Okay, I will ask if the board has any other comments. No? So then with that, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion.
I will
Thanks.
second.
Thanks. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
All right, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank-